Good evening, YouTube. In tonight's video I am going to show you the progress of my project and a couple of pointers of what I did, how I did it, what went good, what went wrong. All in all, just updates about the project and pointers that might or might not help you. Okay, so I finally painted the body. If you've seen any of my other videos, check them out on my channel. I have been building this thing from the ground up. This was a stock 144001 WLTOYS, and now it does not look like a 144001 at all. It's just a different car now. But anyways, going under here, I've done all the metal upgrades. That's something that I speak about every time. But anyways, today we're talking about the paint job. So let's put the car aside for a minute. This is how it turned out, okay? It's not perfect, don't judge me, but it's good enough for my first time painting one of these buggies with a little bit of detail. It worked out pretty well. It's a Fat Body's turbo body. It gives you clearance for an ESC if you decide to mount one. I'll show you how. The inside of it is lined in yellow because it's the last color I use, and that's what we're going to get into right now. But anyways, if you've never painted a body, you can see some of the details right there. Hold up. Like, they're not perfect, okay? And that's all having to do with the taping and how you use the tape and how well you prepare before you actually paint it. But anyway, so the body obviously comes with overspray paint shell on it. Something that you have to remove after you finish painting. It goes on the outside. So on the inside, the yellow lines is what I covered first. So I used tape. This is the kind of tape that I've been using. It's thin masking tape. It's pretty decent. It works okay. For bigger areas, I was using just regular old painter's tape. But so what I did was I covered these lines right here first. I covered that. Anything that's painted in yellow, I covered it first. These lines were covered first. This was covered first. And right here, which is yellow, I covered that first as well. Once I did that, I covered what's in orange. I covered everything that's in orange, including the line. Covered all the side in orange with tape, and the other side as well. Then once I did that, then I did the windows. Actually, I did the windows first. Covered the windows, which I didn't paint. I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, but I might just leave them like that. It actually looks kind of cool. But anyway, so covered the windows, covered the yellow, covered the orange, in that sequence. That way, because when you're removing tape, that's how it's going to work out. So once you cover the orange and the yellow and the windows, you paint the blue, okay? Go underneath, give it a light coat, paint it, and this is the paint that I was using, Tamiya colors. And recommendations, this came recommended for one of the videos that I was watching. You don't have to use Tamiya, but it does have to be paint that is made for Lexan. Because from what I know, any kind of paint that you use that is not Lexan paint or polycarbonate paint, it's just going to chip off with time. It's going to crack. It's going to look ugly. So I followed advice, and I took and went and bought me some of this paint. It actually worked pretty well. Don't stress if it looks kind of ugly. Don't get too close painting. I was painting about yay distance, body width apart, give or take, and light coats. And I just did 2 or 3 coats of each one until it had it and until it was completely covered. Now I did get closer in some detailed areas, but I would just like gently trigger like that, just kind of spot checking the corners and stuff like that, which the paint was a little bit harder to get into. Now I did use a glove. This is the glove that I had while I was painting, so that way I could hold the body like this and kind of just spray paint it. So like I said, painted the blue. Gave it a few coats. I think it was 3 light coats that I used, and it actually covered really well. Actually, the blue was the color that covered the best. Then I untaped the orange and painted the orange. Same thing, just let it dry. It actually dries pretty quick. I think within an hour and a half, I was completely done painting it, and maybe I'm exaggerating. Then once I finished with the orange, I took off all the yellow and painted all the yellow. And then once everything was dry, I gave it 2 light coats of paint on the inside so it would look uniform inside, plus it protects the other colors that are underneath. Then once the yellow dried, I took off the window masking tape. The sequence of colors that I use is also based on recommendations. You always want to use your darker colors first so that they don't bleed into other colors if you decide to go with the lighter colors. So I went with this blue, which in my case was the darker color. Then I followed on with orange, and then all the details were done with this yellow. I'm pleased with the results. It's not a perfect job. It's not flawless. There are a few flaws on it, but all in all, it actually worked out pretty well. Following that, then I painted the girt wing, and I think I did mention that is a Fat Body's turbo body. It actually fits electronics if you decide to upgrade and go brushless and put in a larger ESC in there, and I'll show you how it fits in a minute. But there is the girt wing, and it has pretty much the same color pattern as the top of the body, so that I just thought it would look cool like that. But I did the same thing. Now with the wing, you have to be careful not to mess it up, because it is easy. So on the girt wing, you actually paint the inside of the wing because the plastic cover is on the outside, the overspray cover. So it's a little bit different on how you paint it because of the fact that you're not just taking tape off and spraying and just keep taking off tape and spraying. You actually have to cover the yellow, which is what I did, and then paint all the blue. And then once the blue was dry, I had to come back and cover all the blue after it was dry. Notice that I taped again, unlike the other one where I did all the taping, then came back and started removing tape and painting. In this case, you have to paint, cover the yellow. In this case is what I did, paint the blue, take the tape off, and then expose those. So you're gonna expose where the yellow is going to be, or whatever color you choose if you decide to go with different colors. Then tape around the line that you're gonna paint and the whole wing. You have to cover the whole wing, otherwise you're gonna spray it everywhere, and you'll mess it up. But anyway, so another idea that you could do is do inner outer color. That would work pretty good too. I didn't do it, but you could potentially paint the whole wing in one color that you want to see on the other side. Okay, then you can just go ahead and paint over it. So in that case, you would want again to use the darker color first, and then spray over the darker colors with as many coats as it takes to cover whatever dark color you have. I wouldn't recommend using black because if you're going to do something like that, because then to cover over the black on the top is going to be really difficult. But the only way that works is if you use the dark color so it shows on the other side, and then go ahead and paint the inside again, and you'll have a 2-color wing inside and out with different colors, and that would actually look pretty cool. But I decided not to do that. I just went all blue and did my lines to match with the body. So the body itself, mind you not, I'm going to show you because these are things that you're going to ask yourself. This is a decently small ESC, but it will fit one probably 1/4 of an inch taller. This one is actually, let's see how many millimeters big it is, or tall. This one is actually 33 millimeters. So 33 millimeters, which is about yay big, is going to give you about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch clearance over the top. If it's a little bit bigger, you're still going to get a little bit of clearance. It all depends on what kind of ESC you're installing and if it fits in the bracket for the body. If it doesn't fit, then it's going to sit even taller and you might not be able to use this body. But Battery wise, this is a 22, I think, 23. I'm sorry, 35 sideways, 35 like this. That's 35. And then fat, it's 23. And then length is 108 because I had already measured it. So and that's pretty much the size battery you're going to be fitting in here anyway, unless you do some custom stuff that you have the battery outside of the body. But with that battery, which is probably about the biggest you can fit in this car without altering anything, without changing anything how the car is, then a 108 millimeter battery is about your limit. It doesn't bother the steering. Okay, so we're good there. So, all right. So the body itself, with all the electronics and everything, how I am going to do mine, you don't have to do it how I'm doing it, is I'm going to set it right there, pretty much on the top of each mount, front and back. And by doing that, it puts you on the top right here. The highest you can go without exposing anything. So it'll sit just about, I have the wires, I've got to clean it up so it's not, see if you look sideways, let me try to get it in how I want it. Something's jammed in here, hold on, let me just get a little bit of cleaning up and put it back on, sorry. Alright, so after everything is said and done, and I clean these wires up because it's just, so that's how it's going to sit. And I'm okay with that. If you're not okay with that, then you might want to have to do all of other altering, but that's fine for me. And the reason that I painted the wing the way I painted it is because that's how it blends in with the car. And I think that it actually looks pretty cool. That's what I'm doing. I still have some stickers coming that I'm going to put back here. And then a very small, subtle one right here. Maybe something here, but I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do up here yet. But that's what I got going on. All right, so the other thing that I did today, and I'll show you all the things that you're going to need. And this video is more intended for rookies like me, people who are just either starting or have been out of the RC stuff for a while. There's a lot of information out there, and I kind of collect it and try to do the best that I can to show you that if I can, anybody can do it. So taking the body off just to get out of the way. So there's that was my paint. Now this right here, this is Kydex, I believe is what it's called. It is I think this one is a millimeter thick. No, 2. It is 2 millimeters thick. This it's called Kydex, and I'll show you what kind of tools you're gonna need to custom make something like this. And it actually surprised me. I thought that I was just gonna make something and mess it up, and it wasn't gonna work at all. But I like how it turned out. It's custom work, and it's pretty clean work, to be honest with you. I could do a little bit more sanding, and I rounded the edges, actually cut them at a 45 all around, just so it looked cooler in my eyes. But that's what it turned out, and it actually turned out really good. The only modification that I had to do to the car itself to install this was on this motor, on this mount here. I had that nut, that hole does not exist. I drilled that hole so that I can install this here. And the reason I had to do that is because if I wanted to mount it on these screws right here, the plastic or the Kydex was not going to be wide enough to be able to mount on those because of the shock. You need clearance for the shocks. And as you can see, I cut the notches out so it would fit. You see it right there, those notches. But still, even cutting the notches out, going as wide as I could not get it to mount on those 2 holes, so I just did a single drilled hole in the middle. Now, how did I do it? Patience and work. And it took me, drawing the design on it is what takes the longest, because you got to figure out clearance, if your wheels are not going to touch it, and if, as you can see, mine does not. On either side, it has clearance enough. With bigger tires it might touch, but I'm not planning on changing this size of tire for this particular car. So I like it due to the fact that, one, it's going to offer me just a tad bit of protection on the front, so if it goes front first, I'm not going to destroy all this metal. Plus, it'll probably absorb a little bit of the energy that might transfer back, because this is going to be a speed run. Plus, it will give it some downforce because of how the nose is shaped to keep it down while it's driving. I like how it turned out. I've seen similars out there, but I kind of compiled a whole bunch of videos that I watched and made it work for how I wanted it to look and the effect that I wanted it to have. And for custom work, it actually looks really cool. I like it. So now let's get to how I did it. So I already explained a little bit about the paint job. So what things you are going to need for the paint is obviously tape. You're going to need masking tape of different sizes if you're planning on doing design. This one's 2mm. I believe this is 5 or 6mm. I'm not sure the dimensions. I know this one's 2mm. I haven't opened it yet. I haven't used that one. And this is about 5, 6mm, something like that. And then some regular old painter's tape. I did use this one. It's thicker than this variety of tape, but it does the job. Now, the one thing that you need to know, and I'm going to show you why, is, let me see where it's more noticeable. Okay, so look right there. You can see on the camera where you can see the blue bleeding through the yellow. All right, so the reason that happened is because when I put the tape on, I didn't pay close enough attention and didn't seal the edges of the tape good enough. The way that you do that is when you put the tape on, look on the outside and look at if you have any bubbles, because this was done with this tape right here. This tape is what made that line. So you want to look on the inside and press real good and get all those air bubbles out. Take your time, just be patient, because otherwise you're going to have something like that. Now, to the naked eye from a distance, like while the car is driving, that's not going to be noticeable. So it's not bothering me, but I'll know for next time. Now, I did fix the problem when I did the girt wing. It's from Fat Bodies as well. I went ahead and paid more attention to what I was doing, and the line came much, much cleaner. All right, so other things that you're going to need, I really highly recommend that you get you a pair of these scissors. They're curved scissors. This one works really well. I can recommend it. There's many like it, but this one right here, made by, if it focuses, it's not wanting to focus. Let me see. Normally it focuses. I don't know why it's not focusing right now, but it's made by Tamiya. And this one right here, straight scissor. It's for hobby grade scissors. Also a name brand. This one is ProTech RC, I think. Yeah, ProTech. You're going to need a ruler that measures in inches or millimeters. I'm using millimeters because I'm getting used to using millimeters, which is very common for RC videos for whatever reason. You're going to need an X-Acto knife. This particularly going to be used for cutting tape. Like when I was doing these lines right here and around the windows and right here on this edge, you have to use one of these knives so that you can get precise lines or where you want your paint to divide. So an X-Acto knife, of course. And a glove so that you can not paint your hands. If you don't mind painting your hands, then you can just paint your hands. And paint, obviously, and I will not stress this enough. I haven't done it, but I'm not going to try it because I don't want to mess up my paint jobs. So just get polycarbonate paint. Doesn't have to be Tamiya. That's just the brand that I chose to go to, and it worked out pretty well. Now, when you're going between layers, if you get too heavy with the paint, it's gonna it's not gonna look good. So, but if you do that, don't stress it. You can fix it. It's just gonna take a little bit. Let it dry. Go over it with a light coat, and then that kind of fixes it, and you won't be able to notice any mistakes. Because that happened to me on the first one. When I did orange the first time, it looked like crap, and then I let it dry and said, well, hopefully I'll be able to fix it. And it did. It fixed itself by going with lighter coats and just being patient. I was just being impatient with it. Another thing that I didn't mention, before you do anything at all with this body, wash it. Wash it. Make sure that you use, and don't touch it on the inside, or wash your hands really good. Get all that grease, get everything off your hands. Wash the inside of it with, I guess, some non-abrasive stuff. I just used mild soapy water and washed it inside out, then took paper towels and dried it out really, really well. Okay, so, and then as far as for the bumper that I made, this is the material that I use. This Kydex, and just to illustrate an example, that is kind of how you start. All right, so you start by drawing it on the Kydex, and then once you have the pattern that you want, you start cutting it. I used just a regular pencil, and it worked just fine. Other than that, you will need one of these, a vise. The reason you need a vise is because you're going to have to press the Kydex onto the press, right? Mark your lines, and then heat it with a heat gun. You're going to have to heat it with a heat gun, but don't get too crazy with it, because it'll start bubbling up and you'll mess it up. And then start bending it, but don't grab it from the top. You have to start pushing it. Once you got the heat where you want it, you can give it just like a pull. Let me tighten it up. Give it like a don't pull it from up here, because mine started bending on the top, and that's not the effect that I wanted. So I just kind of, as it was hot, I put some gloves on, and it wasn't that hot, but I still put gloves on anyway. And you start pushing it back right here. When it has a slight bend and you see that it's bending on the line where you want it, then you can take it off of the press, heat it, because you've already pretty much started the line, and since my lines were pretty aggressive, then you go to town bending it and making sure that it's bending uniformly as you bend it. I was putting my fingers underneath it and making sure that the line was bending where I wanted it to bend. Then once it's bent beyond the point of 90 degrees, you can start with low heat pressing it and pressing it and pressing it until you get it where you want it. And that's pretty much, you just repeat that same thing for all the lines that you want to cut and bend. This worked really well. It really helped out. Another thing that I did use for the cutting was a Dremel. Now, because it's plastic, it smells like burnt rubber when you're cutting through it, but the precision that I was able to cut it with, and all the availability of different adapters that I have on this tool, helped me immensely in accomplishing this task. Now, I'll stop there for a minute to talk about this thing for just 1 second. This came from Home Depot, and actually it is very, very, very good. The reason I got it was because I was looking for something similar to a Dremel, and I was like, I don't want to spend a ton of money, but I want to get the most bang for the buck. And this was the most bang for the buck. What you see here is what I got. The whole kit was $41 plus tax. And in this box came the tool, right? And then it has different levels right here of speed. It has every kind of adapter that you could possibly need for hobby working, I guess, or whatever. I've even used it to cut metal. I cut something metal the other day on the car, and it actually worked. It's got all kind of neat little things, drills, different size adapters for the head of the, because some things like this, like the little drill bits, they're too thin for the adapter that's for it to go in here. So you have some thinner ones to be able to get in there. Now, what the final selling point for me, and this might be for you as well, is that when you take this out, underneath there is an adapter that extends, so you don't have to hold the Dremel in your hand, or in this case the Wen. It's not a Dremel. It has an adapter that you can connect it to, where you connect your devices to it right there. You connect it onto there. Obviously you have to pull that out. It's got a shaft in there that you kind of pull out, and you tuck it in. You'll figure it out. It's in the instruction booklet. But anyway, it just gives you like the pen, and then you just turn it on, and you just can have a lot more precision by using it like a pencil kind of cutter, sander, whatever you're doing. It makes it so much easier with this. So if you're looking for something like this, like a Dremel or something, and you've been wanting one, go online and check on the Home Depot. They have this one. It's the Win brand. And like I said, I got it for $41, and I am a happy camper with my purchase. So that's that. And sorry for the sidetrack. I just had to mention that because it is a really useful tool to have if you're going to custom build and work with your RCs and sand stuff and grind stuff, and it just makes life easier. And also another thing that you might want to get is a soldering iron if you're really serious about getting into the hobby, because you're probably going to need to solder stuff, connectors on batteries and stuff like that, and it is very useful to have a soldering gun, and there's plenty of instructional videos out there that will teach you how to appropriately solder stuff. Anyway, so that's that. This turned into an infomercial, kind of, sort of, but anyway. Again, thanks for watching my video. That is the update that I have on the projects. I'm waiting on some electronics parts, so I'll give you one last look of what the car looks like, kind of pre-assembled. Right there. That is what it's going to look like. Give or take, that's how it's going to sit. All metal upgrades. Body is kind of crooked. There you go. Custom made bumper. Custom paint job. All metal. Foam tires. ESC. I have a brushless motor, but it's not in here yet. It's a 4300 kV motor that's going to get installed on that. My problem is right now that I think that this receiver is bad, and I'm waiting on parts to fix it. And then with this setup that I have, it'll run a 3S battery. From my experience and from searching online, probably the biggest battery that you're going to fit in here, 3S, is about a 2200, maybe 2600. Anything bigger than that is just not going to fit without doing additional custom work. Now on the 2S side, I've seen them up to 3000, 3300 mAh, and they seem to fit. But I ordered a few just to test them myself, but they have not arrived yet. Oh, there's the motor. This is the motor that's in there. It's not branded. I got it from, I think it was AliExpress, but I'm pretty sure that it's made by Ghoul RC, because I know that WLTOYS in some way, form, or fashion is associated, I think, with Ghoul RC. And this motor, actually, I haven't ran it yet, but it seems to be promising. I'm guessing that it's going to get me in the ballpark of 70 to 80, maybe. I'm not sure yet. Maybe 70. Maybe I'm shooting too high for 80, but we will see what it does, and I'll post a video when I do get it up and running. And it's driving me crazy because now I'm doing all these projects on the car and I can't ride. That's that. Anyways, thank you for watching, and just stay tuned to see what else I'm up to.